Welcome to episode 3 of The Messenger, the Rachel cancer scam. I know I gave you a lot to digest in the first couple of episodes, and I want to pick up on an important topic which I touched on at the end of the last episode. I mentioned that she has this long and illustrious history with men, and I also referred to her daughter as the daughter formerly known as Madison. I told you about the grand fabrication of her career accomplishments. She told me years ago she passed the California bar through online classes and doing some on-the-job training like an apprenticeship with the father-in-law of a man she was never actually married to. I'll get to the fake marriage and fake father and mother-in-law. Are they real? Are they alive or dead? I think you're probably thinking the Rachel fake death toll will climb as the story continues. And if that's how you're thinking, you're right. So at the moment, we have Rachel in the following career lies, for those of you with a scorecard. Lawyer. This is false. She never graduated law school, never took the bar, and has no law license. Registered nurse. Trauma nurse. False. No license in the California Board of Nursing, under Rachel's name. Pilot. Also false. There's no one with her name and birth date registered in the FAA database. Oh, and another little-known fact is that Rachel apparently also claims to have a PhD in aeronautics. A pilot and nurse for Mercy Air, that's also false. Call to Mercy Air's corporate office to verify employment led to the infamous, "I'm sorry, sir, we have no one here by that name." Actually, someone from their legal department ended up calling me back after that call to confirm that. Her lawyer story goes so deep that she led me to believe that with no criminal law work, she was actually involved in the Kristin Smart case in SLO. It's a horrific case which was handled beautifully by the SLO DA's office. And there was a wonderful podcast about it as well, of which there's no mention anywhere at all of Rachel or her legal work or contributions. She led me to believe that SLO District Attorney Dan Dow and a high-profile judge were so enamored with her and her legal knowledge, her abilities and natural talent that they handpicked her to replace him, as he would soon be seeking higher state political office. Now, at this point, that was about 3 years ago, summer of 2021. DA Dan Dow is still in place and not seeking higher office. This is a lot, isn't it? I'll slow it down for you. I'll start at the beginning of our relationship. We can work our way forward. This is the first thing you need to know about Rachel. She is smart. You will learn just how smart as we go on. But she does claim to have a degree in biomathematics from Rice University, a fact that I'm unclear about, and quite frankly, I haven't looked into it because it means nothing to the case, and I hate math. There will be no math on this podcast, other than perhaps the calculation of lies and deceit, calculation of the men which were involved with Rachel, and the most amusing one to me, a calculation of all the people in her life which she killed off. Some of these people real, some imaginary. But for now, thanks to her, they're all dead. Rachel's a voracious reader. She loves to read stories, sometimes a book a night, according to her, but she also has an incredible gift for storytelling. She specializes in telling tales that are often separated from the truth by an enormous distance. And I have plenty of those. As you hear this story, do keep in mind that everything I reference can be backed up and made available for abstract by an independent third party, and it will. All texts, emails from Rachel to me, and notes from the alleged doctor, everything's been kept in my phone and backed up for posterity's sake. At some point, I will release these messages and the WhatsApp messages to you to review. My story with Rachel goes back to the spring of 2001, when I made my way from the East Coast to Las Vegas. I was working for a company that allowed me to be based anywhere I wanted west of the Rockies. I was single, 34 years old, and I thought, now Vegas sounds fun. Found a spot to park myself and began my life right here, just a few miles from where I'm sitting right now sharing this story with you. One of the first business trips I took when I arrived was a trip to Houston, where I met an adorable 21-year-old former beauty queen. A stunner. One of those that's way out of my punt range kind of girls, As I told you, she was in the Miss Texas USA contest. That was true. She introduced herself to me as Madison, and that name has great importance to this story, as Rachel's firstborn daughter is actually named Madison. As of the recording of this episode, Madison has now changed her name, and she's a college student living across the country. She's asked me not to reveal her name of choice, and I will gladly oblige. As it turns out, Rachel wasn't just a college student. She was smart and resourceful. She had other ways of earning money, and she knew that. Rachel was, at the time, a prostitute, or an escort, whatever the proper terminology is, and an exotic dancer in Houston. At the time, and after a few drinks, I thought, who am I to deny assisting a young beauty with college expenses in exchange for a little bit of fun? It was clear to me that after my first experience with young Rachel that she was what we might refer to as a professional. We exchanged pleasantries, a couple drinks, nominal amount of cash, and we did our thing. There was something about Rachel which I couldn't get out of my head. It was insane. She was and always will be one of the most beautiful women I've ever known. And how we met, it's nothing I'm proud of. But if we're talking about truth and lies here, I need to be truthful with you. We stayed in touch. She ended up moving to LA, making it easier for she and I to see each other. And we began to see each other periodically without the exchange of legal tender, if you will. Saw her in LA, she came to Vegas to see me. And we were in and out of each other's lives over the years after that. She and I both married. She had children. My marriages, both of them were disasters. And I'm certain that I was not easy. There was always something about her for me, though. It culminated in a way when the cancer scam began. Around that time that we decided to pick each other in 2021, she would say to me, "Harry, I can't believe that this entire time it was always you for me. The whole time it was you. I have always loved you." And that line is important for a bunch of different reasons. Keep it in the back of your mind. It was always you. Back in the early 2000s, for a second, Rachel met and married Mark after knowing him for just a couple months. They married in 2002. They met while Rachel was a stripper in Los Angeles. This is a fact that I learned about just recently. I thought she was continuing her studies in modeling and had left the adult entertainment industry when she moved from Houston. The couple stayed in California, moved around from LA to Santa Clarita, Morro Bay, San Luis Obispo. Finally, they settled in Atascadero, sleepy little town just north of San Luis Obispo. As my first marriage began to dissolve, I learned of my wife's involvement with another man, and I promptly went looking for Rachel. I looked high and low, and this was the early days of social, but I found her. And we talked, and we talked. There was always something about her to me, as I just said. Her voice always provided some level of comfort. Anyone that knows her knows how sweet she is, how she presents herself. It's just, it's next level. What I thought was genuine sweetness and honesty, combined with caring and love and concern for others, turned out to be sociopathic behavior mixed with textbook narcissistic personality disorder, among other things. And if I'm being truthful, to me, she's one of those people that I just felt, I don't know, there was something bigger than I had ever felt with anybody. Even as I tell you this story, I still somehow find love in my heart for the woman that, I thought she was. As a guy, it's easy to get paralyzed. And by the way, being paralyzed is important to the story. And those details will follow. But as a man, sometimes you can just not get out of your own way when you see and you're in the company of a beautiful woman. When we reconnected, we spent much time on the phone, talking and texting. At some point, early days, Rachel asked me what I was looking for, and I said, well, it's not complicated. I guess happiness is the answer. I suppose happiness. Rachel began to share details with me about her marriage and her relationship with Mark. She claimed that Mark was abusing her physically, sexually, emotionally. The stories she shared with me were horrendous. She actually wrote a blog about it. She shared it with me. It was hidden from public view. The Blogspot site was My Hidden Life 821. You can actually search it for yourself. It once was a Blogspot site, but it's now no longer available. Now, as we go through our story, and in an upcoming episode, I'll share with you one or two of these blogs, and you'll get to hear them in her own words. At this point, she was working in a bank when we reconnected. Her youngest and fourth daughter was about 1.5 years old. She would tell me that she was in such fear when she was at home that she would sleep on the floor, in the bathroom, the door locked. The abuse she was suffering was systematic. It was consistent. It was bad. Eventually, she and Mark went their separate ways, according to Rachel. She was in the house alone with her girls, and Mark was off being Mark, as she would say. She indicated that he would show up periodically and force his way into the home. He was violent, he was angry, often leaving her with bruising and scratches. He allegedly burned one of her breasts at one point with a lighter to show her who was in control. She alleges that he was just that kind of guy. I felt badly for Rachel. I began to assist her in any way that I could. Some money here and there for a phone bill or utility bill. Now, I need to let the cat out of the bag about something with Mark. Not because I don't understand storytelling, but I don't want to have time pass between these episodes and give someone the opportunity to badmouth him online or try to cancel him. These are just the times we're living in. The accusations she made about Mark, they're all false. Mark never laid a finger on Rachel. Quite the opposite. As it turned out, Mark was a loving and caring husband and father and dealt with more lies and manipulation than any man ever should. The story, however, needs to be included. Just don't judge Mark for doing anything other than sticking around longer than he should have. You can imagine that all I wanted to do was help. During this time, I also began to assist her in efforts to find shelter and assistance from the state of California, and for some reason, that never worked out. She could never seem to follow through on anything. Anyway, as the dust was settling on her marriage and my marriage, we saw each other, and Rachel ended up pregnant. I pushed to terminate. I knew it wouldn't be easy with Mark still in the picture at some level, and someone or some ones would end up hurt. I'm not the kind of guy to stand around and watch someone get hurt. You can ask anyone that knows me. As the saying goes, I'm not the guy. We saw each other for a bit after that, and then one day, out of the blue, I received a horrifying phone call from Rachel's friend, Laura. On the next episode of The Messenger, the Rachel Cancer Scam, enter Bobby. Rachel tests positive for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma for the first time, and the death toll in Rachel's imaginary murders climbs. Next time on The Messenger.